Doesn't like to face the scrutiny of questions from the White House media pack, but US President Biden could find time to turn up on late night TV.
There's a process underway that I think if we get that temporary ceasefire, we're going to be able to move in a direction where we can change the dynamic and not have a two-state solution immediately, but a process to get to a two-state solution, a process to guarantee Israel's security and the independence of the Palestinians, but without them being able to, for example, invite in, another country to provide their defenses.
I'll listen to it. I think there's more questions there than answers. Let's bring in foreign editor at The Australian, Greg Sheridan. Well, Greg, I can't fathom why anyone would think it's a good idea in his office to put him up on late night TV like that on a serious issue such as Gaza, but there you are. Where are things up to in your sense of things, the ceasefire talk and everything else?
Well, Biden, you're right, Peter. Biden is now kind of in a twilight zone of weirdness, really. He can't do any spontaneous event, and even when he does manage to speak coherently, it's just kind of hallmark platitudes at best. He's under some pressure to force the Israelis to produce a ceasefire. There was 15% in the Michigan Democratic primary today voted for uncommitted. That means anyone but the president. So these are Democrats who are presumably going to vote Democrat, and allegedly there's some tens of thousands of Arabs who don't like Biden's relatively pro-Israel stance. Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, is clear. He'll do a ceasefire if it's temporary and it gets some hostages out. He won't do a permanent ceasefire or a withdrawal until he's finished getting rid of Hamas. And at the moment, Hamas still have, battalions of fighters and commanders in southern Gaza. A temporary ceasefire might be a good thing if it allows relief supplies in for the population and it frees some Israeli hostages. I think that's about as much as Netanyahu will do for the moment, but obviously the Americans are pressuring them to do the maximum.
I look at Biden and I can't see how he can sustain a heavy, media-intensive US presidential campaign, but no one's talking seriously about moving him on. There's this talk about perhaps at the convention he quietly steps down and they have the replacement there nominated on the floor. But others are saying, well, that's just a Republican conspiracy theory. What do you think is going to happen?
I think that's quite plausible. Plainly, Biden doesn't want to step down. Peter, you've spent more time with politicians than most people, and a lot of them are, God bless them, I love them all, but a lot of them are super egomaniacs. And to run for president, you've got to be almost narcissistic and solipsistic and, so much in love with yourself. And that's the best of them. That's the best of them. So Biden obviously feels like Trump. Only I can do it. Only I can defeat Trump again and all that. He'll stay if he possibly can. However, if it becomes obvious even to him that his presence there means he'll lose, he'll get out because he wants a Democrat to win, not least to protect his family from the legal troubles they'd face under a Trump presidency. Now, there is a certain elegance to leaving it until nearly the convention. If he pulled out now, they'd have to proceed with the primaries, and it's too late for any candidate to run. So Kamala Harris would probably everyone in the primaries would vote for Biden, which means voting for Kamala Harris. Whereas if he leaves it till nearly the convention, all the delegates are pledged to him, and then he can say, I free the delegates, they can make their own decision, and then they could choose someone other than Kamala Harris who might keep her on as their vice presidential running mate. My big problem with that scenario is that it's too late to introduce anyone relatively new. Like the best Democrat would be a state governor, like the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, or someone like that. But they'd probably have to go for someone who is already very well known, which is the sort of Michelle Obama scenario. These are wild scenarios, but these are wild times in American politics.